I want deep, godly friendships, and I bet you want deep, godly friendships. But why are friendships so hard to get and maintain? Well, today we're talking about the ins and outs of friendship. I am here with Andrea Bruce. Are you excited? She looks excited. This is my ministry partner, Andrea Bruce. Bruce, do you know that we have an anniversary coming up? A ministry anniversary?
Is it the time we broke up?
Nope, not that one. The time we met,
gosh,
it's almost
yes.
12 years ago.
Happy anniversary.
So for 12 years,
Happy anniversary.
we have been doing ministry mostly, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
We have been doing ministry mostly side by side.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about friendships. We're not talking about just any old friendship. We're talking about godly friendships. So what is your rough definition of a godly friendship?
Two people committed to knowing God more than knowing one another.
I would say a God-centered friendship.
Okay, I know I'm writing 3 adjectives of what?
Godly friendships. Do you understand what we're
I
doing?
do, but I did
Don't
mine
look
different.
at my paper.
I don't want to cheat off your work, but what's your first word?
No.
Then give me another word that's in the wheelhouse of your words.
You were supposed to think
I
about this
did.
ahead
I
of time.
have my words, but
Then just
now.
write them down.
Okay, I'm gonna do that, and then you're gonna regret it.
Are you afraid you have the wrong answers?
I do have the wrong answer, so I'm changing my words on the spot.
I think I have the wrong answers too.
I do. I think you're on the wrong track.
I am. All right, you go first.
So do I
What's your
just read
first?
one?
Just one.
Okay, pick a card, any card. You chose a good one. Deeply satisfying / deeply difficult.
I thought it said deeply afflicted. I was like, it's about
Sometimes.
right.
You know what I mean? Like these
Yeah.
God-centered friendships are
What is it? Deeply what?
difficult.
Deeply difficult. So deeply
Like just as
satisfying.
satisfying as they are is sometimes how difficult
I'm
they
gonna
also are.
match that with hard.
I knew you were gonna put that one.
Yeah. So basically, we're saying the same thing.
A godly friendship is so difficult because you're deciding to have at the base God's standards for friendship, God's standards for love, God's standards for serving, God's standards for listening, God's standards for humility and obedience. I think all friendships seek to support one another, but my supporting you is not the same as a traditional friendship because it means I don't want what Melissa wants, and we call that support. I want what God wants for Melissa. You know what's tricky though is just like in a marriage where I know very intimately my husband, meaning I can see
The good and the bad.
faults. Yeah, exactly. And that's true in a godly friendship because I think in a godly friendship, I share about what God's doing in me. I share about where I'm struggling. I share authentically, like there's not much you don't know. Well, just because I share doesn't put you in the position of fixer. Like a godly friendship's role is not to fix, but it's not your role to passively watch
Yeah.
without a voice.
That's what I think is a part of this hard part, is that there is that having to discern and pray and ask God, not just what comes to the top of mind and what I want to get off my chest or what I want to say or how I want to see you change. It's like, God, what do you want for Andy or for Sarah or for Crystal? What do you want for them? And to try to discern that, it's hard. But I think that's where the deeply satisfying comes into play, is because when we know one another deeply and we are for one another with God, is there any better relationship to be in or a collective circle to be in?
That's why mine is I thought I wrote something else.
You're shocked by what you wrote.
Yeah, it's not about that, but yours is. It's about growth.
What did you mean by fruitfulness?
Hands down, which I don't like to admit this, and I don't know why. I think it's in godly friendships that the most growth has come in my life. Because if I would have chosen to just stay in casual, fun, and enjoyable friendships that don't have bumps and difficulties, I would not have grown. Like, to be around women who seriously want Jesus in my life and they believe that's fully possible has been like the accelerator on the wood.
So give us some, like, what does that look like in real time?
In real time, it looks like being able to confess nastiness to a couple people around me, knowing I could say anything to them. And with grace, they're going to listen and pray and encourage me, but they're also going to follow up and be like, hey, remember you shared that? Where are you at with it? Which produces in me like a accountability without having an accountability partner, but somebody who cares just as much about my growth in Christ as I do. I don't feel like you're alone in your relationship with God because I'm kind of right next to you. And I don't feel like I'm alone. I feel like you're just as invested in my relationship with God as I am. Now, I know I'm responsible for it, but you're just as invested in it, which has caused me to realize the importance of what God's doing in me. And it's not just about me. It impacts you in a way that I did not experience that except for in godly friendships.
My last one is fun, deep, and support. So that was a lot of words, but this would sort of encompass how I most feel deeply satisfied in my relationship with my husband and in my friendships, which are, I have to have some level of fun. Now, my level of fun and Andy's fun are two different funs. Would you agree to that?
No, you do just fine with my fun. Now, your level of fun is not my level. I don't want to say.
Okay, I will say that we were on vacation
for 6 hours and call that fun.
We were on vacation. I never asked you about this, but I could like feel it from you of like, stop talking, Melissa.
When?
So we're on vacation, we're on a cruise, and I really wanted to talk about like what we were each learning on vacation. You did not want to talk about that.
Did you notice it wasn't just me?
I noticed it was everybody
else.
Except for maybe Charlene would get in there with me, but everybody else was just like silent, and I could see Andy like, oh my gosh. I just wanted to. We were talking about the fear of the Lord, and I wanted to talk about it, and I can clearly see that is fun to me. That's fun to me. But also, what's fun to me is some nonsense, and I think that's why I surround myself with people like you. And you are very much like my husband. My husband is full of nonsense. I can't create the nonsense in and of myself, but I like to spectate it. Like, you guys will make spectacles of yourselves.
Yeah.
And there's something about that where I'm like, that is deeply fun to who knows what they're going to say or what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I surround myself with people like that.
You do.
Because I won't do it. But I want to partake in it through you.
And I am probably somewhat misunderstood where it can look like I only like shallow surface nonsensical things
That's
and
not true.
don't have very many feelings. I do.
Yeah.
But man, is there something that you bring out to go into the depth of thinking, of challenging, which for me would be sort of premature or non-thought through concepts that you enjoy going to, and just without being a challenger, you bring it up and ask questions and invite me to ask questions, taking me to deep places that I would never choose to or rarely go to on my own. And that has been actually deeply fulfilling
to go deep and
to have a friendship that has such variation and dynamic of we can have so much nonsense and just be cracking up and teasing one another, and then to go to the depths and enjoy both together in a way that feels really natural and dimensional.
Super shallow and very, very deep. I love that juxtaposition.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
It's where I get my most fulfillment. And that depth is with God. It's with knowing him and deeply knowing myself and deeply knowing my friends. And for all those things to sort of be happening at once, like we're discovering about God, we're discovering about ourselves, we're discovering about each other. To me, that is so, and then we're throwing in some nonsense on top of that. I'm like,
that works.
it works. I love it. I love it. So
I haven't shared my last word.
Oh, I'm
Were you
sorry.
going to cut me off?
I was going to cut you off. Life
Okay.
support.
Yeah.
I'm picturing like,
I see you, Melissa.
I'm like,
and
pull the
Andy.
plug. Pull the plug.
Pull the
I'm
plug.
tired of her.
So I chose life support because of the number of times I have felt like it was through the godly friendships that growth continued, change has been provoked, through others that keep me moving,
Yeah.
through others that provoke me and prod me and anger me or bother me.
Yeah.
Through others who are sharing what they saw scripture mean, and so just sharing that as a friend and being like, oh my gosh, that makes me want to go find out more about who God is. You often are like, Andy, I see you moving and changing, and it's like, I don't have that filter or picture of myself. I see typically the junk, or my eyes are closed. It's kind of one or the other of those, but you don't. You see what God's doing in me and will affirm that, so that it feels like spiritual life support, like giving me what I need when I can't give it to myself. You know what I mean?
I do. You know, you've heard me say this a bazillion times, but I love the C.S. Lewis. It's like a little paragraph that I'm going to totally butcher, but it's in one of his books. And he talks about, in real life, one of his friends, I'm going to make up their names because I can never remember the names. One of them is Walt and one of them is Larry. So it's C.S. Lewis and then Walt and Larry, two of these friends. Now, Walt dies, and it's just him and Larry left, C.S. Lewis and Larry. And C.S. Lewis said, you know what? We've been friends for so many years, and you would think that with Walt's death, that there would somehow that then Larry and I would become closer. Like, well, we could spend more time together, and now there's just two of us instead of three of us. And he said the opposite happened, because Walt had a way of making Larry smile and laugh in a way that I couldn't. So now I can't see that side of Larry because Walt's not here to bring that out in him, and vice versa, right? Which makes me think about the perspective we bring to friendships of who God is, showing different sides of who this infinite and wonderful God is. You see God in a way that I would never see him, but because you do see him in this way, it gives me perspective, a way of seeing God that I would not have been able to see without watching your life. And I hope it's vice versa. Mm-hmm. And then when we have a larger circle of friends, you may be thinking, that's really nice for you two. Like Andy and Melissa, great. So glad you have a great friendship, that you grow in your friendships, that you see God through your friendships. I have no one, or I had someone and something bad happens and we are no longer friends. What would you say to someone who's like, I deeply, deeply want female friends, and I have had people talk about me, jealousies, or they've moved away, or whatever that may be? What would you say to a friend that is looking for friends and wants one?
You know, as many godly friendships as we have, we've had those things too. And I know, like, I sort of in me turned off the friendship gauge a number of years ago because I kind of just thrown up my hands of being hurt too many times and going, like, very subconsciously, it's not worth it. And why would I subject myself to more when I could just turn off and be
Pain,
insulated?
and because, you open yourself up.
Yeah, lots of hurt, frustration, anger. Why would you keep subjecting yourself? But on an earthly level, that's what you do. Is what's the cost benefit there? On a spiritual level with friendships, it's not about you or me. This relationship is about the glory of God and like worshiping him through how I love and relate to people. I think when there's a lot of friendship baggage, Melissa, maybe there's some reasons for that. There has been in my life where friends were like, you are a lot to handle. You don't let me talk. You demand center stage. And asking, kind of noticing some patterns, and then having the courage to say, hey, I can be a lot. What do I need to do now? And listening instead of just defending myself has made me a better friend. Friendships are hard because we bring ourselves into them. And I think we're still in friendship because we've both been willing to say, what can I do to make this work? And that's a really hard, vulnerable spot to be in. But for me, I'm glad I've done that, even when it hasn't worked out.
Yeah,
I'm
and it
glad
doesn't
I've
work
asked.
out
What would
every
you
time.
say?
What was the question? You
If
talked
you've
a
had
lot.
friendship, I know. If you've had friendship baggage, what would you say to somebody who's thinking that a friendship like this is an anomaly?
I would say that stinks, because sitting in my own friendship baggage of both being hurt and hurting other people, and seeing I'm actually in a season, maybe the last 3 months or so, really reflecting on my own friendship patterns. Oh boy, can I see a friendship pattern that has everything to do with me. That does not mean that my friends are perfect and they didn't add anything to this pattern, but I have to own my own pattern that I have not only have seen in the last 10 years, I've seen it literally since I've been 5. This has been a pattern. So it's owning, so in my own self, it's owning that, not making excuses for myself. But then I think about how hard it is to sit and feel alone and to feel like, oh, what? I just have to just try more and do more. And that just feels so defeating. So I feel a little sad to think about someone who is sitting without the community that they long for and they've prayed for. And I don't really have a good answer.
You know what? I do.
Please tell us. Please share with us your wisdom.
It's just a starting point. Like, I'm thinking about if you want a godly friend, and where we started was with other women around the Bible. Like, that was where
It really
God
was, yeah.
brought connection. And I think that's true for my godly friendships. We were all raising our hand and purposefully putting ourselves into a mid-group or a small group environment to say, like, I want to know God. And that is where friendships, for me personally,
That would be
have formed.
me as well. And then making myself be open, because I could get in a small group and just stay silent, which I've done that plenty of times, but to really open myself up. And for me and how I'm wired, it's not really opening myself up about, it's more like my relationship with God, what I feel about God, what I see about God. That to me is the most intimate and vulnerable. And to force myself with red cheeks and like quivering lips, to force myself to open up and to trust God in trusting these people that are around that circle, those are where those relationships slowly blossomed.
Hold on, there's something I was going to tell you.
I'm waiting.
Hold on. Oh, for you to have to purposefully open your mouth.
Oh yeah, you've got to
For
purposely shut yours.
me, yes, that's the easy one though, compared to this other one, is I could be in a big or a small group and people will think I'm highly invested when internally I am not. And so for me, it's having to choose to listen, not with my ears, but with my being, and care.
Yeah.
And go an extra half step, because that's what love does. Here's what I'm learning. Like, it hurts. As I look back at the friendships that God has given me, no matter what is behind me, I think just loving people is an antidote and a way to move forward.
I hope this was in some way helpful. It's like 50-50. I'm not sure it was helpful. I will see you next week. I'm committed. Are you proud of me? I'm committed to being here Sundays at 2 p.m. every single week. Are you proud of me for 2022? Just say you're proud of me.
It's been 4 weeks. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Actually, no, I'm really proud of you. And I'm like, that was a mistake. You should not have said that. Actually, it's been 3. But yes, I am proud of you. Your last video was super good.
See you next week.
Bye.